anything wrong. See, that's the part of your job that they didn't teach you at the academy.
Now see, there you go, where my mom used to tell me, boy, you talk too much. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. The officer only asked you for your license.
Oh, sir, what's the problem then?
So, no, I'm just trying to understand why these public servants are trying to improperly pull me out of a situation that I didn't do anything wrong.
Do you have any ID with you, sir?
Sorry.
Do you have any ID with you?
I don't answer any questions, sir.
Come on out.
No, I'm asking.
Come on out, sir.
You.
Sir,
I'm
come on out.
You.
Come on.
I'm asking you.
Man, first of all, George, let me thank you for coming by my office.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to see you. And to your friends out there, I'm Torrie Newsome. I'm an attorney here in Waukegan. You know, I just like practicing law. I like helping people. And, you know, a lot of times when people going through problems in what I do in the criminal law, or just really any legal problem, period, man, they suffering. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm trying to do is be the type of lawyer to help people suffer less. That's what I'm doing. But man, I'm glad to see you. Yeah. Glad you come by my office. This is gonna be fun.
I'm excited about this. Let's get uncut.
All right.
All right. Now let's talk about the fact that returning citizens have to interact with law enforcement. Tell us, help us out. If there's any mistakes that we make, you know, just bring it up. I'm getting pulled over by the police, okay? And I know my tags are...
Why should I even drive this car?
Okay.
If I know my plates are suspended, why should I even get in this car? So that's number one. Now people may say, well, look, Torrie, you just don't get it. I got to go here, I got to go there. Well, then that's the gamble. So if you like to gamble, then you deal with come along with gamble. You know how that is. You win some, you lose some. Mm-hmm. Okay, but go deep, because I think you really asking me something else.
So here it is that the officer walks up to the car. Now, I've heard this, and you can help me out. How should I respond, or do I have to respond to this officer? Because, you know, you see on YouTube, you don't have to say anything. You know, you just tell them, I want to speak to your supervisor, and the supervisor has to drive up immediately. I mean, should we even go that far? Or is that something that we have the option to do? What do you suggest?
Well, you know, I think number one, now this is going to be assuming you're driving the car and there's no violations. Everything is in operation, right?
Okay.
We got good plates. Mm-hmm. We got insurance.
Okay.
All our lights are working. Mm-hmm. The muffler's not too loud. The engine's not too loud. We driving a good car, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Nothing's wrong. Yeah. What should you do? Well, I'm subscribed to the old school, keep your mouth shut. Mm-hmm. You know, the officer come up to your car, sir, ma'am, may I see your license? And
right,
frankly, even if a person is being loud, being rude, you know, being rude, being mean, being disrespectful, that's not a crime.
Yeah.
Okay? But what happens, you're dealing with other people. So you never know who you're dealing with, and you don't know if you're dealing with an officer who they suffering. Mm-hmm. They kids not acting right in school. Mm-hmm. You know, they having problems in their family. You know, you don't know what's going on with that person. And so what happens is a situation can boil up, or, you know, and then something deadly has happened. Now, what my view is on that is that an officer should be able to handle any type of person. Okay? Mm-hmm. You know, it's certainly going to be a much more pleasant job for the officer if the person is nice, easy to get along with, and that's for all of us in any of our dealings. Mm-hmm. You know, but you know, I think as Jesus said, it's not how you can deal with the ones that's easy to deal with. Uh-huh. It's how you gonna be able to deal with the ones that's cussing you out.
Yeah.
You see, and that happens in my job.
Yeah. Okay,
that you can get cussed out, and so once you've been cussed out, you got to think yourself, well, how do I want to deal with this situation here? Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is, I think that when you sign up for that type of job, you got to have a level of compassion. So there's an understanding when you see the person going off. It could be that they're trying to hide something. You're doing your police investigation, it could be. Or it could be that the person is just suffering.
Yeah.
And so the officer maybe, instead of going to the first reaction is shoot first. Maybe it's a way, but I'm not doing the job, but maybe there's a way if we got a little bit more compassion in what we're doing, and an understanding that people are suffering, that we might be able to come to a situation where an officer can diffuse that situation.
This is powerful, and then this will be the last part of the segment, but this is very powerful. There's an old proverb that says, he that has knowledge, he spares his words. If you know better, you know, and it's talking about the word of God, but he that has knowledge, you don't have to say a whole lot. And for what if I have knowledge and understanding of who I'm dealing with, like you say, you may have a bad day. I already know that, this happened to me one time. I was pulled over and I told my wife he's about to pull us over. And she said, no, he's not. And he pulled us over and he said some things that were not true. I already knew that this is going downhill. Since I know that, it's probably best for me not to give that response that that person may be looking for. If you're on edge, hurting people hurt people. And so it's best probably that I don't give you that avenue to hurt me. And things may happen regardless, but the point is, I know better. I know that if I hold my peace, that I may live another day.
Well, but let's go here. It shouldn't be a deadly encounter over a traffic stop. I don't want to be misunderstood.
True.
Here's the situation. This is the situation. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about what the officer should be doing. Mm-hmm. An officer, when they make a traffic stop, they really don't know who they're going to encounter. Mm-hmm. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Right.
You don't know. Right. But you have to be prepared for either and maybe a few more type of characters. Okay? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that whoever it is, you come out shooting. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying, in a lot of these cases, when the officers are shooting and it comes out later that, they mistook the situation and things like that, my view and what I think a lot of these are going to help solve a lot of this is that, some blame should be on the officer, but what needs to start happening is that the chief of police gets fired. Mm-hmm. And all of the leadership staff of the police department, that they get fired. Because clearly, if an officer's doing that, it goes to some training. Now, I was looking in this book, Robert Kennedy and His Times, and I was reading in this section on civil rights, and he was talking about in December of 1960, the Supreme Court had outlawed segregation. And this segregation was in terminals as well as trains and buses and so on in interstate transportation. Us going from Illinois to Wisconsin, which we do a lot here living in northern Illinois. Mm-hmm. We crossing the border, going over in the Kenosha, shopping at the new mall in Woodlands and stuff like that, or Woodlands. And so what happened was the South had largely ignored this situation. And so CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality, they were going to do a bus tour, and they were going to do this sit-in at the bus stop. Mm-hmm. Now here's what happened. He said, and this is out of his book. I'm going to just read this for 1 second. Mm-hmm. It said, the Freedom Riders traveled through Virginia, the Carolina, and Georgias with an occasional fracas and arrest, but without major trouble. Then divided into two groups, one Greyhound, one Trailways, they entered Alabama. In Anniston, a screaming white mob burned one bus, boarded the second, and beat up civil rights workers. In Birmingham, members of the Ku Klux Klan promised 15 minutes of immunity by the police, set on the riders with baseball bats, lead pipes, and bicycle chains. Gary Thomas Rowe Jr., an FBI informant of the Klan, had alerted his superiors. The FBI neglected to pass on the warning to Kennedy. Now see, this is what I'm talking about. You see what I'm saying? The superiors know.
It starts from the head down. Let's talk about accountability on both sides. How do we hold returning citizens accountable and law enforcement accountable? How do we deal with that? What does that look like?
Well, I hate to go and sit on telling somebody that's winning paid their price through punishment, what they should do when they return into society. But one of the things I think, because I've never had to face incarceration, but one of the things that I think, it seems like a person that had to go into that, is that they've had a lot of time on their hands. That's from what I've heard, to think and read and reflect. And so one of the things that I think I still have not changed on what I think is that the way out is in. In other words, for each one of us, I'm of the mind that everybody is suffering in one way or another. Either we got some fear about our bills that we have to pay, or whether we're going to be able to get somebody into college. You're coming out the penitentiary, you got a fear about whether I'm going to be able to get a job, whether my wife or my children or my fiance still love me, whether I can get a job, all these different things, these fears come up. And so when those fears come up, we got to be able to transform those fears into compassion, if you will. So we can create, because compassion, I think, is a very strong energy. It's not a weak energy. Because if you coming out and you got fear, and you could transform fear into happiness and joy, or anger into joy, then that's a power. So I think we got to find a way to help people that are coming in that have these fears, to help them learn to go in themselves first. Mm-hmm. And when they come out, to understand, just like we in life every day, is that we don't know what's going to happen the next moment. So what we have to do is focusing on what I've been following is mindfulness. That is living in the present moment. Understanding that what we have to do is right in front of us at this very moment. So it's going to apply whether you coming out of the penitentiary or whether you coming out of high school. It's going to be what the person themselves is, the effort that they're willing to put forward, to move ahead. Now, it's not. I don't think it's going to be easy for any of us.
Right.
But that's what's required.
No, and you're talking about really a faith issue, and somebody out there is watching right now, and due to their environment or where they come from or some things that happen to them, their faith has diminished. Let's just keep it real. Like, I don't have the faith to believe like that. I'm dealing with some stuff right now. And so how do I, we got to talk about it, because there's some people who tell me, and I had this happen a lot to me, they'll tell me I don't have money, this is where I live at, a lot of complaining. And I've been there, we've all been there. But when do we move from complaining, and this is my pet peeve, instead of talking about what people are not doing for me, let me get up and start an organization. Let me get up and become an attorney. Let me get up and change policies and get into politics. Let me get up and do something instead of talking about what people are not doing for me. How do I switch? How do I get to that level where I'm switching from complaining about what's happening to me and I'm just moving into, I'm going to change some things? How do I hold myself accountable?
Now that one, again, I think that's the difference between living in the world system or living in the kingdom of God. Okay. Now, for me, I want to try to do what I can in the kingdom of God. Because say if you coming out the penitentiary and you in the world system, well, bruh, sister, y'all in trouble. Because the world wants to keep persecuting you, wants to keep that label on you, got this list of so many things that you cannot do, that you cannot achieve, because we look backwards at your record. Now you come into the world system and you say, look, I'm saved. The moment you get saved, God say, you get a complete expungement. Right? You don't have to wait 6 months for it. You don't have to ask the governor for a pardon. You get the expungement. Pow!
Yeah.
Now in the kingdom of God, now you can do some things.
Okay.
You see what I mean? Because you could look at Joseph, the story of Joseph. Went to prison, falsely accused of sex offender.
Yeah.
Right? And come out, and Joseph become one of the best and most powerful leaders ever known to this day.
Yes, sir.
Or we got to go with the David and Goliath scenario. It's always, to me, understanding that you're not going to be able to do it in your own strength.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? In other words, if I'm going to come out and say, well, Torrie Newsome is out, I'm getting ready to take on to this, I done went inside myself, I'm ready. Well, I'm ready to lose. See, you got to have God.
Yeah.
So that's why if you're in the world system, you do it all on your own. You're going to continue. Now, we're going to continue to, it's going to be suffering even in the kingdom of God. But what I'm saying is, what we're trying to do is suffer less. And so if you have God, I think you got a much better chance because you get that slate wiped clean. And then in yourself, you feel better. And there's plentiful examples of what you can achieve. So that's my view. Now, some people may not agree with it, and I mean, it's not in some law books. I mean, it's in the Bible, that's a law book, but other than that, that's what I think. You gotta determine where you want to live. You want to live under the world system, you want to live under the kingdom of God, you make your choice.
You know, when anybody's been incarcerated, you've been bound by addiction or anything's happened to you, you know about systems. And you talked a lot about systems, and what you're essentially saying is that you don't have to operate, or you don't expect to operate in a world system and be successful, because they got that locked. You're talking about God's system. And so it's very plain. He just made it very plain what salvation is. I come out of that system and I go into God's system, and now things are working out for me. Now here's the thing. Can I work for law enforcement? Can I work for returning citizens? Yes. And I think what we're talking about here is holding ourselves accountable, holding law enforcement, returning citizens, bridging the gap by which system we operate in. How are we going to do this? Now, we're not changing mass incarceration and Jim Crow law. We're not changing none of that by just talking about it. We're changing it by getting up and saying, okay, which system am I going to use my faith in?
That's right. Now, what I want to say, and I should say this, I want to say too, is faith. And that because you had indicated that some people say I've lost my faith. Now, one of the things, of course, in the world system is all designed to snatch your faith. Because once I got your faith, you gone. There's nothing you can do. You have nothing to back you up. You got to get your faith. But what happens, everybody is a little bit longer along the road in their faith journey than others are. And so you have to start at the level of where your faith is. You know, so you might have, you know, like some people, if you come out of incarceration, or you come out of, or you just graduated college, well, your faith may not be the such that, well, I'm gonna have me a yacht tomorrow, or buy, you know, buy a $1 million house. You got to start your faith. You got to build it up in stages and build up your walk. It's going to be all a process. It's not overnight. You know, it's like planting a seed. And if you work the garden, you plant that seed. You know, you have to a lot of times clear the ground before you get that. Before you plant the seed, you got to do that. Fertilize it, get it ready, then plant that seed and wait for it to sprout up and grow. And so that's what I think we have to do. It's not an easy process, and sometimes it's a frustrating process, but I think it's the process to go through, because only when you plant a seed can you get a harvest.
You know what, you brought it right back full circle. You know what, Attorney Torrie Newsome, we knew this was going to happen. I have taken a lot of your time. I want to apologize for that.
No apology necessary. We love to do this.
This has been so good. My dad behind the scenes, we've been having conversations that y'all can't even imagine. And so it's going to be hard to put all this, lump it all in. But if we could just conclude this, first of all, I want to say this. Attorney Torrie Newsome has agreed to speak, and I thank you.
Looking forward to it. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, he'll be sharing at the gala on September 29th, along with our keynote speaker, Sheriff Mark Curran and Detective Matt Thornton and State Representative Rita Mayfield and more. And so we're addressing law enforcement and returning citizens and how we can bridge the gap. So this is just, I guess, a taste of what's to come. And so before we go, could you please tell us where you're at, how we can get in contact with you? We know you're busy. We know you just can't take on every case. But how can we even support you in what you're doing? If you don't know, Attorney Torrie Newsome has been, he's been an advocate for many people like myself. I have called him, and I'm probably not supposed to, I have called him and asked him for advice. And he has done that. He has helped me out and shared some things with me. And if you don't know, he's going to get in your face and let you, hey, he's just raw. He's not going to sugarcoat nothing. But this is who you need in your life. And so tell us a little bit about how we can support you and where you're at, where you're located?
Well, I'm located in Waukegan at 705 Yeoman Street. Just give me a call. My number is 847-650-3941. You can call me. You can text me. You can call me anytime. You can even call me at 1 o'clock in the morning. But I'm going to tell you, most times at 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm in my REM sleep. So you probably going to get, I'm going to probably return that call. But no, anytime you need anything, just call me. And on any type of case. For example, I get involved in not just criminal cases, but cases when people get hurt on their job, or they get hurt in an accident, or a doctor makes an error. Is what I do now, I may not do the case myself, but there's a lot of people that I've learned to work with over the years, that those are attorneys that I partner with, that people need that type of service and that type of help, but they may not find that attorney. They may not know where that attorney is located. Well, I know those attorneys can put people in touch with them, and then they can make their decision if that's the type of person that they want to handle that legal service. So I'm available for any type of legal call a person want to make, on any type of case. Well, the way I think about it, if I don't do it, I'm going to get you to the right person that can do it. Okay.
Well, Attorney Torrie Newsome, I am proud to know you. I believe God has placed certain people in the earth to be a help to everybody, and you're that person. So I want to thank God for your time. Thank you for your time, and we're going to talk a lot more.
Well, thank you for having Legacy for having me on. Always a pleasure.
Wrong
Always.
Uncut.
Yes, sir.